All right, we did this video last week.
Mm-hmm.
We called it New Home, Same Production, ?
Right.
And we talked about 4 players. Who was it? We talked about Tyreek, Juju.
Sheesh, I don't remember.
I can't remember, but it was good content. I'll link it here in case you want to watch it. Wow, we're selling it so hard.
I know.
But we're going to talk about 4 players today who have changed their team during the offseason. And we're going to talk about if that's positively or negatively impacting their production going into this year. So we're going to talk about Robert Woods. We're going to talk about Davante Adams, Allen Robinson, and then Russell Gage. Okay. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about it. I'll start with Bobby Trees. Last year, he was on pace to be a top 12 wide receiver. Obviously, tore his ACL.
Yeah.
So he was not able to finish the year. But weeks 1 to 8, I believe he was a top 12 wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, his situation is now drastically different. Okay. And it's my belief that he will have a worse season. I don't think top 12. We've seen him in top 12, top 15, top 20. I don't think that kind of season is very realistic to expect. And,
right.
you know, again, with these takes that we're giving you guys today, we're not planting our flag on any of these players. We're not saying that we are advocating for these players. We're giving you just realistic information on what to expect for them this year. So he goes from the Rams offense to the Tennessee Titans. The Rams last year had the 10th most pass attempts per game. So it was a very pass-happy offense. Now in Tennessee, the Titans have the 26th most pass attempts per game last year. Okay. Mm-hmm. Tennessee, look, they're absolutely going to have to throw the ball more this year because Derrick Henry, we don't know if we can really keep giving him 30 carries a game. We don't know if that's a possibility. Maybe Haskins will step in. Badake talked about that in one of his takes before.
Yeah.
But the reality is we're going to have to throw the ball maybe a little bit more here in Tennessee, but we're not going to be this LA Rams type team where we're flinging the ball maybe 40, 50 times per game. And also, it's a different quarterback that's throwing him the ball.
Exactly.
Matthew Stafford in 2021 had 41 touchdowns. 41 touchdowns for Matthew Stafford, almost 5,000 yards through the air. And then Ryan Tannehill had 20 less touchdowns, 21 touchdowns, and more than 1,000 less yards through the air. Okay. So it's pretty fair to say that we should have lower expectations for Robert Woods this year. If you look at the vacated targets for this Tennessee wide receiver room, there is 21.2 targets available. So that is very good to know.
Yeah,
okay.
Fair.
We added Treylon Burks. I've already said I believe that you could expect to around 7.5 touches per game for him. Robert Woods, in my eyes, is probably going to be getting about 6.5 targets per game. You can maybe say 7, but 6.5 feels a little bit more safe for me. Mm-hmm. We've also got Austin Hooper, coming into this offense. He averaged about 3.8 targets per game. So that leaves about 3.4 targets per game left of those vacated targets for them to kind of funnel to different wide receivers.
Right.
Maybe Westbrook, Akina Westbrook, I can't remember how to say his name. Maybe he gets involved a little bit more.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I do expect Woods to be healthy this season. I think he's going to be a great leader for this team. We've already heard reports about Robert Woods. He actually jokingly said, the Titans are holding me back. I'm ready. Like, sheesh. And he was laughing when he looked at the camera. He was like, I'm ready to go. Like, they're holding me back. Like, they're trying to make me do this rehab, but I feel healthy, ready to go.
Right.
So I think he will be ready. But I do think we need to have lower expectations. The offense won't score as many points. The defense is going to be the main focus here on this team. And it's going to be about efficiency through the air. So I kind of predict a wide receiver 32 finish here for Bobby Trees, which is still a flex option, right? But I'm looking at 68 receptions, at times. 68 receptions on 104 targets, 750 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I think that's a realistic expectation for Bobby Trees this year. And I also factored into that equation him missing at least one game. I just gave a little bit of wiggle room there. But for me, I don't see the top 15 upside here. It's a different offense. It's a less efficient quarterback, a quarterback who throws the ball less. So let's have some more healthy expectations for Bobby Trees. I don't know if you see that differently, but that's kind of where I am.
No, that's perfect. I like Bobby Trees. I think that feels really comfortable. It's going to be interesting to see how this offense is going to look this year without A.J. Brown. But yeah, my guy is Davante Adams, a guy that, new home, new production. or same production, what's going to happen? You know, this past year he finished wide receiver 2. Obviously, as always, he's always finishing wide receiver 1 or 2. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. But I think the elephant in the room is that he no longer has Aaron Rodgers, the 4-time MVP, the Super Bowl champion. But the plus side is, which is, if it's a weird space because he's going to his college quarterback in Derek Carr at Las Vegas. So it's a little bit interesting. So when you look at these teams, it's obviously completely different. So Adams has been averaging for the past, since I think 2017, 142 targets per year. I think it's safe to say that he should see the same amount of targets, but it will be decrease in efficiency because he no longer has Aaron Rodgers. You know, he's going to Derek Carr, who is a less, you know, he doesn't have the same football IQ. He doesn't have the same quickness as, you know, releases Aaron Rodgers. He's just not Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Yeah. So another thing that I was looking at is like, we need to remember this offense. You know, he's playing with a top tight end now. He didn't have that for a long time. He didn't have a true wide receiver 2. And it may sound crazy, but is Hunter Renfrow more talented or as talented as MVS and Allen Lazard? I mean, we saw him in the top 20 this past year with Derek Carr.
Right.
I think it's safe to say that we can have an argument. I'm not planting a flag on Hunter Renfrow, but like, I think it's safe to say that Hunter Renfrow could be more talented than any wide receiver 2 Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams has ever played with, potentially. I could be wrong there.
Maybe not ever, but I agree in the past
couple years. Exactly.
The Davante Adams era, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah. The past couple years with Davante Adams. So I think Hunter Renfrow is a solid wide receiver too, which not saying that he's not going to demand targets, but he will be open. He's a great route running. He has the opportunity. And once again, Darren Waller, he demands 90+ targets per year, which I can see that continuing. So obviously, once again, there's going to be the same amount of targets, less efficiency, or maybe less targets and maybe a little bit more efficient because the offense is a little bit more complete than you know what the Green Bay has ever had. So my predictions here: 110 receptions out of 156 targets. So it's kind of the same. Over 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. So I don't believe he will finish in the that top tier wide receiver 1 or 2 anymore. It's kind of hard to really imagine that. So I'm giving him the window of like wide receiver 6 to 12. And that's a big gap. That's a really big gap. But I think it's safe to say he could definitely finish in the top 10 still with Derek Carr. We just need to see it. We need to see how this looks like. These guys haven't played together since college, since 2016, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's when he came in, or 2015, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's tough to see, but that's Davante Adams.
I think we both agree that he has the upside of being the wide receiver 1, but
100%.
It's probably more unrealistic to expect that of him. And wide receiver 6 feels safer. I would agree there. All right, Allen Robinson. I feel like I've talked about Allen Robinson how many times?
So many times, but it's good. I mean, people need to hear about it.
Yeah. In 2021, he was the wide receiver 82. It was rough, but you know, he had some injuries. Was really terrible quarterback play, we have to admit. Got around 410 yards and 1 touchdown. It was rough.
Right.
With a new home, though, he lands in LA. There's absolutely reasons to be more than ecstatic with Allen Robinson's upside here in LA. Okay. I've said this before, but I do believe a top 15 finish is very on the cards for Allen Robinson. Every year that Allen Robinson has finished top 12, there's been one thing that's been there, and it's been targets, okay? 2015, 2019, and 2020. All those years, he averaged 9.4 targets per game or more. Now, in some of those seasons, you know, he's finishing as a top 5 guy, a top 7 guy. So I'm not saying he's going to do that because I don't believe there's 150 targets for him in this offense.
Right.
But if we look at the players that are gone, okay, Robert Woods is gone. OBJ is gone. Okay, those are both players who averaged over 6 targets per game. Robert Woods, 7.6 targets per game. There's a lot of targets available in this offense, and maybe they re-sign OBJ. If they re-sign OBJ, I do think we need to limit our expectations slightly. Yep. Although he's going to be recovering from the ACL for a little while.
Yeah, so he should be some games if he does re-sign.
Yeah, definitely. But I think a realistic target share for Allen Robinson this year, assuming OBJ is not back, is around 8 targets per game. I mean, look at how often this team passed last year. I think they were top 10, like I said, in the NFL in pass attempts per game. And that's because they had a fantastic quarterback and great wide receivers. And they still have that this year. I think the running back room is still going to be a rotation.
Right.
And Allen Robinson, I think, is going to be a very crucial part of this team. If he plays all 17 games, we're looking at 136 targets if he gets 8 targets per game. And that is definitely possible with a top 12 to 18 finish here in 2022. Also keeping in mind, those years, Badake, where he had 150 targets and was finishing as the wide receiver 6, 8, and 9.
Right.
He had terrible quarterback play. So yeah, there was more targets, but there was less efficiency, right?
Right.
Blake Bortles, Chad Henne, Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles. So he is going to the most efficient quarterback he's ever played with. Might not be as many targets as those seasons I pointed out, but there's going to be more efficiency. So for me, I know it's probably bold, but I've been giving you reasons why, and I feel like 100 receptions is possible for Allen Robinson this year. Yeah. I think he can get over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, and I think wide receiver 12 is a realistic finish, but wide receiver 12 to 18 feels more comfy for me. I think that's something that if you're a win now team, you need to go take advantage of this because he's going way too late in startups. And I know I have him on teams. I'm not selling him cheap, but other people might be in your leagues. They might only be focusing on last year.
Exactly. So get as much, opportunity you can with Allen Robinson. If not, sell him. Yep. All right, our last guy on the list is Russell Gage, and new home, new production, new home, same production. We don't know. And, when I was looking at this, everyone is raving about Russell Gage. And at least for me, I'm not a lover of Russell Gage. The fantasy community is like, well, he's going to Tom, and he's going to be wide receiver. A.J. Brown's gone. What's going to happen? I don't see that happening. I don't see him having a massive breakout. I don't see him getting more production, in my opinion. Let's not forget, he's going to be, you can maybe disagree, he's going to be a wide receiver 3 in this offense. Okay, yeah, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. You could arguably say the 4th target option, because if they do re-sign Gronk, every single time you already know it's going to be Mike, Godwin, Gronk, Mike, Godwin. That's how Tom looks at the field. He's not looking at Russell Gage, So he finished this past year as wide receiver 38. I actually believe that is a safe, projection. He finished this past in 2021, 66 receptions, 94 targets, just over 750 yards and 5 touchdowns. That feels comfortable. I think he will have maybe less yards, less targets, but maybe more touchdowns. Maybe he finds the end zone. Maybe he finds it, 7, 8 times, because if we also have to remember, Chris Godwin is probably going to miss some time. The expectation is that he might not be ready for week 1. And another thing is that when somebody was hurt, Mike always tends to miss 1 or 2 games. Godwin, obviously with his injury, there's going to be a window for Russell Gage to finish a top 15 wide receiver 1 week. He probably does that 1 or 2 weeks, but there's no consistency that I'm going to believe in moving forward. Yeah. I don't know how you feel about Russell Gage, but I think wide receiver 38 is really comfortable for me. Maybe his true upside, wide receiver 30, but I'm not a huge fan of the landing spot for Russell Gage. I really was hoping that he stayed at Atlanta, but I guess that just wasn't the case.
Yeah. No, I think that's very realistic, wide receiver 38. I agree. You think about how good Godwin and Mike Evans were last year, but they were very inconsistent. Right? They finished so high up there because of how damn good they were on those games when they were the guy. But there's a lot of inconsistency with them. And, I tend to agree here on Russell Gage. I think we should have maybe lower expectations than what everyone is alluding to. Although something that you and I talked about, and I'll just ask you again if you feel the same way, is Godwin might miss time. Yeah. Probably won't, but he might miss time. And maybe there's 2 or 3 games where he is the wide receiver 2, Russell Gage.
100%.
Maybe that's when you sell him.
Yeah, there's definitely a window of opportunity because of those games. And I feel, like I said, there's always a little stretch where Mike Evans misses 2 games. Godwin misses 2 games, Right. Maybe if Gronk does re-sign and he misses some time, maybe that's a good opportunity for Russell Gage as well. But once again, you're not going to see top, 15, top 20 finishes week to week for Russell Gage. I think you'd be a little bit more comfortable top 30 maybe, top 35. But, yeah, I completely agree.
I will go out to say that I do think we're probably going to see around 3 weeks where he finishes top 15, but there will be a lot more weeks where he's outside the top 50. So the inconsistency is going to be there. But
Lenny's in the backfield too. He's still catching passes.
Yeah, and Rashad White. Welcome to the squad.
Exactly. So I don't
caught a lot of balls in college.
I don't know about Russell Gage now. Truly thinking about it, I don't know, but people like him.
Yeah,
I like him.
Yeah, have lower expectations for sure. All right, guys, let us know. Should we keep doing this series? Do you like it? Let us know in the comments below.
Yo, what's good?
What
Thanks
up?
for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos.
Watch
Now,
it.
You can also subscribe
Right now.
if you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/FantasyLandFam.